Public Information Officer. We're here tonight to bring you up to date on the county's work to recover and rebuild after the wildfires, plus a public health update on COVID-19. We have about an hour and we'll begin with a couple of speakers explaining the latest information and then end with a Q&A session. You can ask us questions by Zoom using the raise your hand feature or by typing your question in the chat box. You can also comment on the Facebook live stream, or you can send us emails to eocpio@clackamas.us. Let me introduce Clackamas County Commissioner Chair Jim Bernard. Commissioner.
Thank you, Kimberly, and good evening to all of you. The resilience of our residents makes me proud to serve in Clackamas County. We're in a recovery and rebuilding phase now, and this will take some time. But it's important tonight to advise you that time is running out to take advantage of an opportunity to get part of your home and other structures cleaned up for free. This coming Friday, October 16th, is the deadline for submitting a right of entry form to the state of Oregon. We'll have more details on this in just a moment, and just an added comment. This is only to clean up your debris, your hazardous waste, nothing else. We won't be looking anywhere else. You can trust that this is only to help you and to save you money. Although the fires near our communities are contained and the ones left burning are in the forest, many are still at risk of experiencing flooding and debris flows within the downstream areas affected by the fires. These risks will last for as long as 3 to 5 years. We want you to be prepared for this aftermath of the fire. And we'd like to, let me see, I messed that up. We want you to prepare for the aftermath of the fires. Fires might bring flooding or mudslides in areas affected by the fire. I want to thank you and all the people of Clackamas County. Thank you for your strength during this difficult time, and we're here to help. So don't hesitate to ask. And back to you, Kimberly.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to introduce Clackamas County Disaster Management Director, Nancy Bush. Nancy?
Thank you, Kimberly. So as Commissioner Bernard just told you, we urge all property owners with damage from the wildfires to submit the return of entry forms by the end of the day, which is on Friday, October 16th deadline. That is this Friday. We'll hear from Oregon Debris Management Task Force in a moment, and they will discuss how this will help with the recovery process in a moment. You also may have noticed our rainy fall weather has arrived. Because of the fire damage, there is an added risk of flooding right now. The risk of flooding is greater now in the fire areas as well as downstream because the fire has left soils and vegetation charred and burned. Such soil and vegetation conditions do not absorb water and instead lead to debris flows and flash floods. These increased risks can last 3 to 5 years after the fire. We'd like to strongly recommend, if you're a county resident or property owner, you should consider buying flood insurance, even if you don't live in the floodplain. You may or may not know, Clackamas County is in the National Flood Insurance Program, and homeowners and businesses insurance does not cover flood insurance, and there's also a 30-day waiting period after you do purchase flood insurance. Let me take a moment to remind you of another important source of help available to you. The Fire Resource Center in Moala at 412 South Swigel Street is open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day until this Friday, the 16th, which is the deadline for the right of entry forms. The Fire Resource Center has a representative from a number of Clackamas County departments to help you find the information you need about debris cleanup, permit waivers, and mental health aid. FEMA is also there to help you with applying for federal aid. Please take advantage of the Fire Resource Center before end of day Friday. Thank you. And Kimberly?
Thank you, Nancy. We're grateful to have Laura Gleam with the Oregon Debris Management Task Force with us this evening. Hi, Laura. Can you explain the importance of fire victims filling out the right of entry form to have household hazardous waste removed?
Yeah, thanks, Kimberly. So as Kimberly said, I am a public information officer with Oregon's Debris Management Task Force, which is the state of Oregon's kind of organizing body for managing debris after the wildfires. It includes the Oregon Department of Emergency Management, Environmental Quality, and Department of Transportation. And we are working very closely with county government agencies and the US EPA and others to figure out an approach to address and clean up the wildfire debris in the most effective way possible. So thanks for advancing the slide there. What you need to know, oh, can we go back maybe one slide? It might have dropped off. Is there a third slide? Okay, there we go. Two-step process. It changed a little bit. Right, so the process to clean up fire debris, if you're unfamiliar, is a two-step process. First step is clearing properties of household hazardous waste. And this is kind of an emergency activity to minimize exposure of dangerous hazardous materials to the public. Step one is being offered free of charge to property owners, and the US Environmental Protection Agency is working directly with the state of Oregon and your counties to go in and assess and remove hazardous waste from burned properties. The work is completely funded by FEMA and the state of Oregon and no cost to property owners. Step two is the removal of ash and debris. And we can't get to step one until we get past, or can't get to step two until we get past step one. But the task force is actively working with counties and the federal government to develop funding and implementation options for this step two. What we need to get through step one is for property owners to sign an access agreement, what's officially called a right of entry form, as soon as possible to allow cleanup crews onto your property to remove that hazardous waste. Several people tonight have mentioned the deadline of October 16th, which is this Friday. And I'd like to mention that that is not a hard deadline. We will still work with property owners who sign the right of entry form after that deadline. But the sooner you can sign this, the sooner cleanup can begin in your areas. And the more of those right of entry forms we have in an area, the quicker cleanup across the state and across your neighborhoods will get done because EPA can do it in a really effective manner. So why go with this program? There have been a lot of kind of rumors flying around and some misinformation. So I just would like to address some of that tonight, saying that doing cleanup on your own will be more costly and could reduce the amount of insurance money you have available to rebuild your home. Like we said, the step one is completely funded free of charge to property owners. So save that insurance money to rebuild your home. Just to elaborate on that, if you choose to do cleanup at your own cost, it can cost as much as $75,000. And even with insurance, a majority of that cost may not be covered. So really just want to emphasize that going with the county and state-led effort will save you money in the long run. So more information about that is at wildfire.oregon.gov/cleanup, and the Clackamas County also has a great wildfire webpage with all those resources. That's all I have. I'm happy to take questions at the end.
Great, thanks, Laura. And I'm really sure our audience may have some questions for you at the end. But before we get there, again, we can't forget we are still in the midst of a pandemic, and Dr. Present is our Clackamas County Public Health Officer to discuss the latest on COVID in our county. Good evening, Dr. Present.
Good evening, Kimberly, and thank you. And you're right, we are still in the COVID pandemic, and we will be for some time still. Our latest numbers here in Clackamas are that as of this morning, there have been a total of 2,792 confirmed COVID-19 cases in Clackamas County. That's up 37 from the day before, and there have been no new reported deaths in the last day, thank goodness. We're asking everyone to please keep up the simple but very effective habits you've been practicing for the last 6 months. Continue to wash your hands often. If you can't use soap and warm water, use hand sanitizer. Don't touch your face. Practice physical distancing. Try to stay the 6 feet apart from those who are not in your household. And most importantly, wear a face covering when you're outside your home to help prevent the spread of the virus. It protects both you and the people that you are around. These habits are also good tips for our upcoming flu season. Flu shots are available now, and we urge people to schedule these through your healthcare providers. You can find more information about getting a flu shot through the county's website, clackamas.us/public health, including information about upcoming flu vaccine clinics run by public health with some of our local healthcare partners. I'd also like to encourage parents and guardians to schedule your child's annual well visit to ensure that they're up on all of the recommended childhood vaccines, as this is a safe and effective way to prevent the spread of other communicable diseases. Thank you. Kimberly?
Thank you, Dr. Present. We are now ready to and happy to take your questions. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use your raise your hand feature or type as your question in the Zoom chat box. You can also write a question on Facebook live on the live stream, and we'll take it as well. And you could also email us at eocpio@clackamas.us. We also have some additional subject matter experts with us, so we can provide you with a variety of information to ask to answer your questions. So we'll give it a few minutes for some questions, or a few moments, I should say, for some questions to come on in. Here's one, Nancy, maybe you can answer it. So flood insurance is something that we encourage people in Clackamas County to obtain. Could you speak to the waiting period for what it takes for when somebody applies for flood insurance to when it'll actually take effect?
Sure, yes. So FEMA does have a flood insurance program, and you can go through your insurance agent to get that insurance. But it does take 30 days for the insurance to be effective. So yeah, I'm not sure, that has just always been how our federal insurance program has worked. They always have that 30-day waiting period. I also want to just emphasize here too, that anyone can get flood insurance. And if you're not in a flood zone, the insurance is less than whatever it would be if you are in the flood zone. So if you are downstream from any of these scars, you might want to consider that and talk to your insurance agent.
Okay, so again, if you're downstream from any of the burned areas, definitely look into that flood insurance. It'll also protect you from debris flows and mud flows that come your way. So thank you for that reminder, Nancy. So we'll stick around for a few more minutes to take any questions. Let's see, we're checking our email inbox to see if there's any in there. All right. Well, it's a really quiet evening. I guess we've answered a lot of the questions that have come in for today.
How popular will the flu be this year?
All right. Looks like we have Chair Bernard. Looks like you have something you would like to add.
Yes, I'd like to ask if COVID tests are available locally, just for anyone who asks for it. For example, if you're traveling to Hawaii, you have to have a COVID test to get onto the plane. to fly to Hawaii. And it has to be within 72 hours of the flight.
So we do have some testing resources up on our Clackamas County website. I don't know the exact address, but it's on the COVID website under testing. The decision on who to test, especially for asymptomatic people who are not close contacts, is up to the individual healthcare provider. And a lot of that is dependent on availability of the tests. We do know that many people have plans to go to states that require testing. And I encourage providers to work with their patients to ensure that they're getting the best care, which may include a test. But I can't ensure exactly where or how often that's happening. We are expanding recommendations around testing for close contacts of people who have tested positive, whether you have symptoms or not. So there will be some increased testing there. And we are working on we have shipments of the Buy Next Now test. So we're working on our distribution plans to increase overall testing capacity. The other thing that people should consider if they're being required to have a test like that is whether or not their insurance will cover the cost of the test. And for those who don't have concern for disease or close contact, it may not. So that's something that those individuals who are traveling need to think about. On our website, also with the flu clinics, there are a couple of our flu clinics will be providing COVID-19 testing at the same time. That's pretty low barrier testing for anyone who feels like they need it for some reason. We encourage you to not come to the flu vaccine clinic if you're very ill to prevent the spread of it, but there will be testing available through Medical Teams International at some of our flu clinics. So check the website for that.
Is the county offering flu shot clinics?
Yes, we are. We have, I believe, 2 scheduled, and we're in the active works of scheduling several more flu shot clinics.
Great. And they can find that on the website. I saw
Yes.
a response. It is clackamas.us/coronavirus/testing. And then I imagine there will be one for flu shots.
I believe the flu shot clinics will just be at clackamas.us/public health.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you for that. And yes, Commissioner, we are working on putting information out related to the flu clinics or flu shot clinics coming up in the coming days. We have another question directed towards Dr. President again. It came in through email. How intense do we expect the flu season to be this year?
We always wonder what the flu season is going to look like every year about this time, and we have very little way of predicting exactly what it will look like. We are concerned because every flu season, we experience some strain on our hospital systems. And we know that with COVID-19 as another respiratory illness, that may worsen the strain on our hospital and healthcare systems. But what we also know is that the protective measures you take to prevent the transmission of COVID-19, like staying home when you're ill, wearing a face covering, practicing physical distancing, those are things that prevent the spread of flu as well. So we can hope that it may not be as bad as we may fear, but I don't have any clear predictions at this time.
That is a positive way of looking at it, at the practices that we've put into place for the last 6 or more months. Okay, we have another question that came in by email, and this is directed to it relates to flooding. And it is, has there been any flooding so far as a result of the wildfires or in the burned areas? And if it does flood, will the county provide sandbags?
It's a really good question. So far, we have not had any reported flooding from the rain that we have had so far. As far as sandbags are concerned, we do have some sandbag sites that are throughout the county. However, they are, if you need, like 10 to 15 sandbags, you can go and get those there. Bring your shovel, because sometimes there's fill bags, sometimes there are not. And you can find those sites on our website, which is clackamas.us/D as in disaster and M as in management. and click on sandbags. If you need more sandbags than that, that you'll have to purchase those on your own or have sand delivered to your home if you need 10 or 15 bags.
Great, thank you. And it's just all about weather preparedness. So maybe start thinking about that now, especially if you're in an area that is prone to flooding and within the fire area, or as well as downstream from the fire areas. It looks like Commissioner Bernard, did you have your hand up again?
I do. I'm going to keep this thing lively.
I guess so. Thank you.
So my question is, give me an example of DEQ or somebody coming on my property of hazardous waste. I mean, is it the siding? Is it the just ash on the ground, or is it paint, chemicals, oils that they would just scoop up the ground? I'm confused on how much cleanup would be done.
Thanks for the question, Commissioner. So hazardous materials include all of those things that you just, or most of the things that you just listed. So fuels, petroleum, asbestos that is in a lot of building structures, car batteries, paint. What's that? Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. So, propane tanks. So what it'll look like is trained EPA cleanup crews wearing like the Tyvek, white Tyvek suits. Once folks sign those right of entry forms, we'll be going onto properties and doing a hand by hand assessment of the site to check for those sort of materials. And then if they find them, they will remove them and properly dispose of them. I mentioned asbestos earlier. They will not be removing all asbestos, just if they find large chunks of asbestos. So even after that first step one is done, there will still need to be an additional asbestos survey done of the ash and other debris, and that will come in step 2.
Thank you.
And what's the timeline, Laura, for contractors to come on to people's property to start doing that work?
EPA is already mobilized. They'll be starting in Jackson County next week, October 19th, and then in the next couple of weeks, they'll be spreading out to other areas of the state, including Clackamas County. They expect it to be running 30 to 60 days to do all of the cleanup and removal. But again, that's contingent on folks getting those right of entry forms in and then being able to do it in an efficient way.
Do we know what time of day they plan on working? Like when could people, if they sign the right of entry form, when could they expect contractors on their property? As far as times of day, like are they working 24/7? Are they working 9 to 6? Do we know yet?
That is a good question, and I don't have an answer to it. I can look into it and get back to you.
Okay, great, thank you. We've been in contact with many of the property owners that we're trying to reach out to sign, and they have a lot of these logistical questions that we're happy to answer when we receive that information. So just a couple of reminders. We're encouraging people to fill out that right of entry form by this Friday. However, it's great to hear that the state is still going to work with property owners if that form is filled out after the deadline. But please get those forms in. So when the EPA comes to Clackamas County or their contractor to start cleaning up, you are ready to go and accept that service. And then also our Fire Resource Center closes on October 16th at the end of the day. However, a lot of those resources will still be available on the online platform. But Nancy, we do have a question. How are we ensuring that people will still get the help they need even after the Fire Resource Center in Molalla closes Friday?
So there'll be a couple things that will be happening. We do have a new FEMA team that is coming in for individual assistance. They do not have their facility yet, but you will have, individuals will also have that resource for them to work with still at FEMA. And we do have here at the EOC, we have a lot of people that are working with Those that we do know that have lost their homes may need some assistance, and we are going to continue to be in touch with them as well. And you can also go to our website, of course, where it has wildland fires, and which is clackamas.us/wildfire fires. And there are buttons on there that give you different information that you may need, and also a way to contact the county so we can help you out if needed.
Great. We had a few more people join us via Zoom. So if you would like to ask a question to our panelists, you can use the raise your hand feature on the bottom of your screen, as well as type us a message in the chat. We'll hang on the line here for another few minutes to take any questions. Looks like Facebook is pretty quiet as well. Okay. Well, we want to thank you for joining us again this evening, and we want to thank everybody here tonight to provide us that important information about some of the deadlines coming up on how to clean up our properties and remove that household hazardous waste. It's the first step for recovery. So again, the deadlines, Fire Resource Center closes this Friday, and you're encouraged to fill out your right of entry forms Friday as well, to allow for that no cost household hazardous waste removal. And also please arrange to get your flu shot, as well as your child's annual wellness exam. So thank you for joining us this evening. You can always find us online at www.clackamas.us, and you can reach out to us there 24 hours a day. Thank you for joining us this evening.
You.